Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sideline Breakdown. I'm Carl, your host, here with Mr. Ruck Norris to break down this weekend's URC Weekend of Rugby. Interesting derby there down in Cape Town. I think quite a shocker for some people. It was an interesting game. I think the Sharks really, brought their A game, and the Stormers. I'm not sure if they're feeling the after effects of that Leicester loss a couple of weeks ago, but a loss for the Stormers. Bulls with a comeback, two wins on the bounce. Sure, they'll be, getting some confidence back from that. So good to see. And then another draw for the Lions. So yeah, let's dive right into it. Mr. Rock Norris, how are we feeling tonight?
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, no, I'm doing good. As you mentioned, it was an interesting weekend of rugby, mixed bag of results. We had the draw and two South African teams winning. So I think overall a good weekend of rugby.
100%. I think let's dive straight into the rugby, and I think we'll start with obviously the Lions and the Bulls played the same time on Friday. So I think we'll start off and kick off with the Bulls. What did you make of the game?
Oh, look, it was a interesting game to watch. A bit scrappy here and there, given the conditions and everything. But I think at the end of the day, it's a good result for the Bulls to get that victory. Given the results the last month or so, to get an away victory twice in a row now in two different competitions is very good. I think this has been your most successful outing under Johan Ackermann thus far, being able to get that victory over Edinburgh, and they were also unbeaten at home thus far in the URC. So it was good. It's not perfect. You aren't quite 100% where you want to be, but I mean, like playing at 50% and still winning away games is a big victory. So, yeah, I think overall, positive result. What did you make of it?
100%. I think the Bulls can take a lot of confidence. It's great to see that Johan Ackermann has gotten some wins under his belt. I think the pressure was certainly starting to pile up. I think there's a lot of. I'm not sure. I haven't really seen much of it necessarily, but it's just the feeling of, loss after loss after loss. He's struggling to either get his message across, or his tactics, or players just aren't picking up what he wants to do. So I think to get two wins on the bounce is great. I think like the Sharks were in the same position. They've got a couple wins under their belt after winning, over the last couple of weeks. And I think if the Bulls can take some confidence from this, really gain momentum, I think we've got the quality of player to carry it on. It's two away games that we've won, which is fantastic. Two comeback wins as well. I think shows the fight and the grit that these players put into the games. So I think credit to them. And yeah, I think we're really kind of starting to see. Look, I still think there's a long way to go. I'm not saying it's perfect. I do agree that there were some scrappy moments, and I think defense. Obviously, we've got a new defensive coach in now as well, and there's still a lot of learning to do. I think it's a major learning curve for the new coaching setup. But I am seeing some positives. I think the attacking play is looking slightly sharper. I think we made less mistakes in general, considering the weather as well. So credit to that. And I think we also did have some good defensive sets. There was a couple of times that obviously broke through quite easily. But again, I think we, defensively here and there, we certainly seeing some type of improvement. So let's hope the Bulls can take some positives and just keep the momentum.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as you mentioned, a few good defensive sets there. I think, especially at the end, about 7, 8 minutes left in the game, we only lead by a few points. So to ensure that you keep them out and get the victory was good. So yeah, I think that's one positive thing as well as the comeback. I mean, we were down half time by a few tries as well. So to come back that second half and get the victory is obviously good. So I think that's some positives you should take out of this game. And obviously, there's still a lot to work on. I think you're not patient enough on attack. So that's something you can obviously learn. And as the team develop under Ackerman, there's room for improvement there. And I think also with regards to your lineouts and your forward plates, also improved a lot. So I think the difference that Ackerman is making at the forward specifically is good to see. So, yeah, and obviously with your new attacking coach as well, you could see that, he's starting to make his mark at the team. So I think overall, more positives than negatives for me. But yeah, any players that stood out for you?
I think it was a tough game to really stand out. I think we dominated at scrum time. I think Volku put, Piers is obviously no slouch when it comes to the scrum, so I think he certainly made his mark there. Same with Jan Hendrik, kind of all over the pitch, which was good. Johan Grobelaar winning man of the match. I think he was solid. I think we've always known he's been very good at the breakdown. A couple of lineouts here and there that went astray, but otherwise solid. Can't complain about his performance. So obviously one man of the match, but really good from him. Just trying to think now. Rudolph had a reasonably quiet game considering the form he's been in lately. Um, yeah, I think the backline was fairly quiet, to be honest. Obviously, again, the weather playing a role there, so I can't really say the backline stood out, but I didn't think a forward dominated game. Um, yeah, I think Johan Grobbelaar deserved his man of the match, and yeah, I think, like I said, that's probably as much as I can say in terms of any players that stood out. Really, I think, like you said, a scrappy game, mistakes here and there, but we managed to pull through. So yeah, anyone who stood out for you?
Yeah, look, I must say, obviously, Jan Kroblaar, I think he had a good game. But it's as you mentioned, it was like a team effort. There wasn't really any standouts, but that's actually what you want. You want that complete team effort. And if you play good as a team, then you will be successful. So, yeah, I think that's good. And obviously, yeah, if you are heading home now, preparing for a local derby, I think you will take a lot of momentum from that. Yeah, it will be interesting to see how you use this momentum going forward. Yeah, while we're on the Bulls, I saw that you also made a new signing for the new season in the form of Andre Liebenberg. So, first of all, what do you make of the signing, and how do you think he will fit into the team? Do you think he will go straight in, or yeah, how do you think he will change or affect the makeup of the squad?
You know what? I was actually a big fan of him when he was at the Bulls and he broke through. I thought he was a very good and exciting player. I do think he's actually still a very good and exciting player. Obviously, adds some good depth. Um, Aldrich Lowe and Cameron Hanekom have been out for a while. Obviously, Aldrich Lowe is starting to come back slowly but surely. But yeah, I think it's good to add that sort of quality and depth. And I saw it was they mentioned something about if Ulrich Lowe and Hanekom and whoever else is there goes on national duty, then you have someone like him to back up, which is obviously great. Can't complain. I think it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, he broke through as an eighth man, predominantly be playing flank over up in England. So, I mean, look, he's a versatile player. I think he can cover obviously any of the loose forward positions. I'm excited. I think I'm not really sure whether he'd start necessarily, and I think considering the makeup, I mean, I think Kumeda's been playing reasonably solid lately, or hasn't really done anything to lose his place necessarily. John Rudolph has been in good form. Cameron Hanekom, hopefully coming back soon, is obviously a quality player. Same with Ulrich Hello, Marcel Coetzee. You've got guys there who are really good. So I think if he makes it into the team, he's going to have to play very well in order to do so. But I mean, the big, strong, good line-out option, I think as your ball carrying seven, most likely, or even a number eight, obviously he can play there as well. I think is a very good option to have there. And again, depth, especially with the amount of games being played now, Champions Cup, URC, you've said you don't want to send a second string side into your Champions Cup games. But if you have someone like Tango Liebenberg, Ulrich Loh, those players I mentioned now, the drop off isn't that big, and I think rotation is going to be much easier going into the amount of games that they're playing now. So I'm happy with the signing. I think he's a really good player and still a spring chicken at 30, so he's got a couple of years left in him as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're making a good point there with regards to squad depth. I mean, that's obviously something we discuss now, especially in the Champions Cup. You almost need two squads, quality players that's on the same level if you want to compete in two competitions and be successful. So I think that's part of the, signing recipes to get those quality players in. And as you mentioned, when the other players is on national duty, he will be available. Especially when the new season kicks off, it's in the middle of international season. There's a lot of international games. Obviously, your Springboks will either play for the Springboks or they will need to race before the next, tours and everything. Yeah, I think that's obviously the way to go is to sign those type of players, those type of players that is at international quality player, but they aren't quite there in the Springbok setup. So I think that's the way to go. And especially if the Springbok players plays a lot of games, they also need to have a rest. So that's obviously good to rotate them with those players. So at the end of the day, I think that's where all the teams will tend, is to get those players back from overseas into our setups to strengthen our squads and to be able to compete in both competitions.
Yeah, definitely, and I mean it's something that we've spoken about with the Sharks as well, where they were looking to sign someone like Dan Dupree, who isn't in the Springbok squad, and that they know that they aren't necessarily going to lose to international duty. So, I mean, thinking about it, if you have a combination of, and I'm just thinking out loud, you can obviously set up the way you want to set up, but Ulrich Lowe, Cameron Honeycomb, and Marco van Staden 1 week, and then the next week you're sending out a team of Marcel Coetzee, Hannu Liebenberg, and John de Rudolph. I mean, it's something it's a good headache for a coach to have. So, no, look, happy with the signing. Glad he's here. And, yeah, I hope we make a couple more signings because I do think we're in desperate need of it. I think there's a lot of players who need to go, and I think there's quite a few that need to come in. So I hope isn't the end of it, but yeah, like I said, good signing, and we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, I think we can't leave it there. So, who's the players you think should go and in what positions, and who would you like to come in?
It's straight off the top of my head. I'm gonna go because I think we're struggling at backline, and Sebastian de Klerk is out for who knows how long now. Obviously went off on a stretcher in the game, unfortunately, and I think the makeup of the backline moving forward until Kane and Moody comes back is going to be problematic because I don't think one of the players I'm going to mention now, Harold Frosted, is up to it. Is up to the standard. I think we're in desperate need of. I mean, look, we have Jan Serfontein who also needs to come back. So look, there's a couple of guys who need to come back from injury. So I think David Kriel and Jan Serfontein at the inside centre is covered. And Moody and the Clark can cover outside centre, but I mean, there's still, you know, more depth that's probably needed in fairness. So I would actually go out and look for an inside centre. Like I mentioned, Harold Foster would need to go. I think Billy LaRue needs to go. Um, in all honesty, I'm not the biggest fan of the one for Mark, Mornay Smith. Zach blows hot and cold. Zach Berger blows hot and cold for me sometimes as well. But I mean, he's okay, so I don't really mind him. And then, yeah, I think we're in desperate need of a fullback or two. I think that's the one position we're struggling in. I think we need a backup fly off or at least someone to compete with Andre Pollard if he's not going to be, up to the quality that we need in terms of the game plan that Jan Ackerman wants to play. So a new fly off would be on my bucket list. Inside centre, as I mentioned, I think we're doing okay at wing. And then I'd probably I'd look at someone else to run for Mark. So another lock, someone at 4. Volkulo is leaving, so I think we really need to look at a tight head prop as well. Someone at least. I think it's difficult to find someone as good as Volkulo, but someone at least that is up to standard. So yeah, top of my head, those are the positions that I've gone for, and some players that I would let go. So
Interesting. Almost sounds like a whole squad that you need, but Yeah, I think let's leave it for there. I think, yeah, everyone that's listening, I think you can let us know what you make of Carl's suggestions, and who would you like to see come into those positions. I think that would be interesting to see. But yeah, moving on swiftly. Lions again, another draw after last weekend's draw. I think is almost a bittersweet draw, in the sense that obviously they got 3 points out of this game, and to get away with 3 points away from home in those conditions, I think those were the most treacherous conditions the whole weekend. So, I mean, you would take that any day of the week, but I think they will feel a bit disappointed, at the end of the Hooters gone. Angelo Davids had the opportunity to score the winning try, but then, he couldn't ground the ball. So I think they would be disappointed they didn't get the victory, but in the end, 3 points away from home, you would take that any day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, look, 100%. It's disappointing not to get the win, and especially when you had the opportunity to get the win, I think it almost feels more like a loss than anything else. I mean, 2 draws on the bounce. It's the Lions again blow hot and cold, and I do think they have some good players, but they go through almost a high. I mean, they wasted the Bulls at Loftus, about a month or two ago, and then now they're kind of starting to take their dip again. And I do think the Lions blow hot and cold, and they're missing out on opportunities to really. I think they're in a decent position on the log, and they're really not taking advantage of some of these games. So yeah, I didn't watch much of the Lions games. So I don't really have much to say on it, but disappointing to not get the result there. And I think especially if you manage to win away games in conditions like that, it really puts get some confidence playing away from home. I think South African sides have struggled over the last couple of years to adjust to the type of conditions and the weather going up north. So I think if you get the opportunity to win those games, you must grab it with both hands. And these teams who are used to playing in those conditions, you can play against bottom of the log teams. It's tough to win there. So if you get the opportunity, grab it. And unfortunately, the Lions didn't do it.
Yeah, especially in the position they are currently. I mean, they're currently sitting on seventh on the log, and seventh and eighth is still up for grabs. I mean, between position 7 to 12, there's only 5 points in it. So yeah, as you mentioned, it's important that we get the opportunities to have a victory that you should take it. And essentially, that's the only way that you are going to secure your spot in that top eight, and that's where you want to end up. Yeah, but I mean, that's the problem with the Lions. I think we've mentioned this now week in and week out. They are just too unpredictable. They're not consistent enough in their performances. And yeah, that's probably the problem. And I mean, look, to get an opportunity like that at the end to win the game, I mean, you should take it. It doesn't matter about the weather conditions. I mean, you should be a top elite player and you should have the ability to score the try at the end of the game. So, yeah, I think it's 2 points also that they miss out. So it can make a big difference when it comes down to the quarterfinals and who makes it and who doesn't.
No, most definitely. And yeah, I mean, again, we've mentioned a lot. Consistency is key. It's how you become one of the best teams in the world. That's what makes Leinster so good. It's what made the Crusaders good those years. Consistency is how you judge a team at the end of the day and see how good they actually are. And the Lions, unfortunately, are very inconsistent. They can be on fire one week, and then the next week um, they kind of drop off a cliff. So look, let's hope they've got some good players. So let's hope they can get some form and some consistency. I was quite excited by Angelo Davids moving to the Lions. I was hoping he had the impact that someone like Edward van der Merwe would have, but unfortunately it hasn't yet worked out. So let's hope he can gain some form as well. But I think we'll move on to two birds, one stone, one game, Coastal Derby, Stormers v Sharks, and the Sharks taking out the win in Cape Town. Quite a shocker there. Yeah, what did you make of the game being a Stormers supporter?
Well, in front of 52,000 supporters, everyone pitching up in Cape Town to go and watch the game, I think the Stormers were part of that 52,000 in the stands. It didn't look like they pitched up for the day. Yeah, as you mentioned at the beginning, that loss against Harlequins away from home is ending up to be our season changer. I mean, we were in pretty decent form, going into or going away from the URC, playing the Champions Cup, getting the victories, getting away victories in the URC, and then deciding to send a weak team towards Harlequins, losing badly, and then from there we weren't the same. And I know it wasn't the same team that played, but yeah, it just seems to have that negative effect on the whole squad. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much to say in the fact that the Sharks, they pitched up ready for the game. They brought the line speed on the fence. They were in our faces. They gave Sasha no time at all to get the backline going. Our forwards weren't there. I think the only player that really stood out for me was Nkunu. He was the only guy that really carried the ball with intent. The rest of the forwards, they were just pretty average, taking up the ball without real impact. And not to mention even our set pieces, couldn't win a line out if we couldn't find our jumpers or it was skew. Scrums weren't good, Sharks dominated us in that as well. So, yeah, set pieces cost us, and also under the high ball, where we were normally good, chasing the high ball, competing for the ball, winning it back. We either lost the contest or we knocked it on. And then lastly, our discipline, giving away that amount of penalties, unnecessary penalties, knocking on the ball, just basic stuff that we didn't do good this weekend. I think we stick to our game plan a bit better. You could see we played with a bit more structure, but as I mentioned, we couldn't compete properly for the ball or disrupt them when we tried to compete. So at the end of the day, we couldn't get that turnover ball and attack from there. And yeah, I think that's basically where it went wrong for us. And obviously, the Sharks came with a good game plan. They stick to it. It worked for them. They dominated us physically, both in the forwards and the back line. And at the end of the day, they were the deserved victors.
100%, and I think it's very plain and simple. Or that's what it's looked like from my side. Is it just seemed the Sharks wanted it more. I don't think it was a quality issue. I don't think the Sharks are necessarily better than the Stormers. I just think they came to play. They pitched up on their day. They knew what they wanted to do. They stuck to their game plan, and they really made the lives difficult for the Stormers. And I think that caused a lot of mistakes being made from the Stormers side. I think the lineout for the Stormers was shocking. Throw-ins were bad. Lineouts were it just went wrong across the board. I don't think the backline was as effective. Obviously, Sasha, I think and it was a trend that they did from last week as well. And they put a lot of pressure on Sasha. Obviously, knowing the quality of player and what he can do, obviously they put a player like that under a lot of pressure. But the Sharks obviously did that very effectively, and they kind of played him out of the game. And yeah, I think that's where you need if you know that Sasha's going to get locked down, Damien Willemse and Warwick Cologne can almost do what, obviously not necessarily to the level that Sasha can, but they're good quality players. They can create, they've got good rugby brains on them. They can kick, they can pass, they can, they really can do pretty much what Sasha can do. And they didn't really. I'm not sure what went wrong there. But credit to the Sharks. Stormers obviously have an opportunity next weekend to rectify what happened this weekend. But yeah, it was a very disappointing game. And yeah, one question I wanted to ask you is I saw a couple mistakes again from the Stormers that we've mentioned previously. From kickoff time, not receiving the ball cleanly, mistakes being made. It happened literally on the first kickoff of the game. So, yeah, what do you think is going wrong there?
Look, I don't know, to be honest with you. this has been a struggle from the start of the season. I think we've talked about this also a couple of times now. Is just the basic stuff. From kickoff, cover your ball and get out of your own half. I mean, that's basics. Yeah, it's obviously something they need to work on. I don't know if they have started working on that, but yeah, that's one of the issues that I've seen from the beginning. That's also caught up to us now, and teams are starting to cash in on that. So we won't be able to get away with that week in after week out. So yeah, I mean, it's just basics that they need to fix. That's what it is.
I mean, that's the thing. I think the teams are certainly, if you can see a team's weakness, you're going to try and exploit it in any way you can. So teams are going to, if they didn't see it in the beginning of the season, they're certainly probably going to try and start seeing it now and going to be trying to capitalize on that. And it actually moves me on to my next question where, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not to say that the locks are always going to collect those balls from kickoff, but it seems I'm not sure what Dobson is trying to do with the locks. Connor Evans is really not the best lock for me, in all honesty. And I mean, if I have someone like Ruben van Heerden on the bench, who I think complements JD Schikkeling fantastically well. If you have a 4 and a 5 of Schikkeling and Ruben van Heerden, I think you pretty much sorted in the lock department. And um, Murat, I don't think he's necessarily the greatest either, but he can do a job at the end of the day. So I'm not sure what he's doing with the locks. Having two locks on the bench doesn't really make sense, especially if you have two locks who doesn't necessarily ones that are going to cover both lock and flank, which is obviously something we've seen previously. So that decision did not really make sense to me. So I'm not sure what you made of it.
Ach, look, yeah, I've been critical about Gordon Evans, since the start of the season, and yeah, I don't think he's currently his form and quality isn't there where it should be. I mean, he's been given how many games now, either in the starting position or on the bench, and he hasn't delivered. So it's obviously an issue, and it speaks that it's an issue that we have with regards to our lock department. We don't have that many options, and you also can't start, JD Schikkeling every single game, together with Ruben van Heerden. So there needs to be rotation somewhere, and the problem is, as soon as we rotate, there's issues. So yeah, I don't know what the thinking was there. Maybe going forward heavy, trying to dominate the second half with fresh legs, but that obviously backfired with someone without getting a yellow card and then somehow getting injured while getting the yellow card. I don't know what happened there. So, yeah, it's just a mystery. And also, selecting players that aren't 100% fit is also a mystery. So, yeah, it's obviously something we need to look at. I mean, we need more good quality locks. I think that's the problem. I don't think we have enough good quality locks at the moment. And it's, I think, at that time of the season where it's coming back to haunt us. So we could have gotten away with that at the beginning of the season. But now that we're getting into the business end of the competition, I think now is where, squad depth and that quality of players is coming back to haunt us.
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree. I think you do need more quality locks. I don't think you have. I mean, I don't think Murat is necessarily up to standard, but I mean, again, he's someone who never plays either because he's injured most of the time. So at the moment, in terms of quality locks, you have Van Heerden and you have Schikkeling, and that's pretty much where it stops. And yeah, I think that's a position that you guys desperately need to try and cover up going into the market and trying to bring some players in that position. And I think you actually need someone to possibly take Schikkeling and Van Heerden out if you guys want to be the type of team that wants to consistently perform and have JD Schikkeling and Ruben van Heerden and two other locks competing for that 4 and 5 jersey. I think that's where you guys really need to try and focus. Yeah, that's pretty much where that ends. I think I mean the lineup was so bad. I'm not even sure you guys had locks on the field. Anyways, another question I have here is I mean, look, Sasha is obviously a fantastically talented and good quality player. He's dangerous with ball in hand. You never know what he's going to do. He's got a fantastic boot on him. But more and more teams are going to start trying to keep him out of the game, lock on him. How do you think Dobson needs to try and work around that? Either freeing up Sasha in a way or ensuring that if Sasha does get locked down, that you guys still have the creativity to impose your attacking play. I think it's very reliant on Sasha at the moment, especially considering the form he's in. And I think it kind of showed this weekend that if you can stop Sasha, it's difficult for the Stormers backline to get going. So, yeah, how do you think they're going to try and sort that out?
Well, look, to start off, I don't think Sasha had a bad game. I actually think he had a good game. I think he was one of our best players, especially given the situation. The fact that he was tied down, he still managed to find gaps, get players into space. I think the problem is we were over eager on attack also, and we weren't as patient as we should be. I think we were as guilty as the Bulls was this weekend, and normally we are good with that. I think when we did attack, he attacked well. He did manage to find space, but we couldn't, capitalize on that. I think there were 4 or 5 instances where we were, solidly on attack and we should have scored, but we didn't keep our cool or we didn't utilize the advantage that we got. So I think to start off, that's the first thing you should consider. And secondly, when he is tied down, is that, Damien Williams and Warren Galant should come into the game a bit more, as well as obviously Kobus Reinach. I mean, he's an experienced player. He should know, when to speed up play, when to slow it down, when to give the box kicks, and then especially on counter attack, that's when he's exceptionally dangerous, and then the defensive lines aren't up to speed and so forth. So I think it's just you need to know when to attack, and when you do it, you should do it properly and you should finish it. Not like the weekend where we had 5 or 6 opportunities and we didn't capitalize on that. So yeah, I think that's one of the problems, and obviously the quality of Damien Williams and Warwick Galant, especially if you have 2 extra playmakers on the field, you should use them a bit more.
I mean, I agree. I'm not saying that Sasha had a bad game, and I think it shows the quality of play that he is, especially on attack, how dangerous he can be, that even when teams lock on him, that he can still make things happen. Actually, the point of the question that I was trying to make was, is there an over-reliance on Sasha to make the attacking play work? And when it comes to Willemse and someone like Galant, who I thought, especially Galant, actually was reasonably quiet in my opinion. How are they gonna essentially affect the game? And I mean, inevitably Sasha's gonna have bad games. It's just how sport works. You're not gonna play well every single game. And it's those games where either he gets locked out or he's not playing well, where especially when you have 2 playmakers on the team with the quality of Willemse and Galant's level, they should really kind of take control and help. I think especially this weekend against the Sharks, if they were able to get more into the game and you have 3 playmakers, Sasha, Galant, Willemse, I think the attacking output would have been a lot more dangerous at the end of the day. And I think you guys, it would have been much closer. I'm not saying necessarily you would have won, but I think it would have been a much closer game than what it ended up being.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also, if you look at the bigger picture and the game as a whole, we had a lot of opportunities and pressure that led to penalties where we kicked for touch, but obviously we couldn't convert, especially in the second half when we were, within 7 points of the Sharks. There was a few opportunities we had. We tried the line outs and it didn't work, and we made mistakes from that. So I think in the bigger scheme of things, if we applied the pressure correctly as we did and we used our opportunities, then we could have still won the game. At the end of the day, your backline can only do as much to get you in those positions, to get you to, finish off I mean, essentially, if you get the penalty, you kick for touch, then you rely on your forwards to firstly win the ball, and then you play from there. And that was the issue. We couldn't get the ball from scrums and lineouts, so that's a big thing. And I mean, if you take out the set pieces, then you only rely on general play to get you in those positions. And I mean, you can only get that far if you win a penalty and you go kick for touch. So I think at the end of the day, the forwards also need to put up their hands, do the basics right, win that ball, and then you can talk about your playmakers.
Fair enough. I think I can't disagree with you. I think the forwards take a lot of the blame when it comes to that. Number of opportunities that they had 5 meters from the line, and then you just go and leave the line out. And I must say, I thought the scrum was actually going to be a lot more even. I do agree with you that the Sharks kind of did dominate that area of the game. So yeah, credit to them. And I think we transitioned to the Sharks, and yeah, the way they played, credit to them again. Another win under their belt, and I think they're really starting to gain momentum. And with the quality of players that they have, I think it's difficult to stop them. Again, the Stormers will have an opportunity next weekend to do so, so we'll see how that goes. But any player that stood out for you from the Sharks?
Yeah, I must say credit needs to go to Andre Esterhuizen as well. He was appointed in new captain when JP Peterson took over as head coach. And I must say he made a real difference as captain. Obviously, as a player, he's always been a good quality player, but now he's just stepped up that level, just in the way that he plays. I mean, his overall play was excellent. His decision making as captain was excellent, and he just leads from example. And that's the type of player I think the Sharks need. And I think with the names in the Stormers backline, I think the Sharks' backline, I think they won this round. I think they were far better than what we were. So I went from Hendricks to Esterhuizen as well as Hooker. I think he also had a solid game. And then Fassi, I think he had a much better game than he did last weekend. He made a few errors still, but I think he was the better fullback as well. So yeah, credit must be given to their backline, and then obviously their forwards that set the platform, put the Stormers under pressure at the line out in the scrum. So it was a good, complete 15 by the Sharks.
I certainly do agree. I think, again, with the quality of players that they have, it was surprising that they went through the dip that they did. I think once they get going, I think they're all going to be very dangerous. They have, and again, credit. I was actually going to mention Andre Esterhuizen as well. He almost looks like a new player under the captaincy. He's taken the responsibility on his shoulders. He's made an awesome impact. I mean, the size of the man, he's very difficult to stop in any case. But he almost looks like I don't know, he kind of gives me an aura of he's almost more intelligent as a player now, being the captain and leading by example. Obviously got his try in the ball as he should. That's kind of his thing now. So credit to Andre. I think him and Ethan have formed a solid partnership in the middle of the field, and I agree. I think Jordan halfbacks had a decent game. I think particularly Jordan had a very solid game. I don't think he's been in the best form lately, so good to see him have a good game. And I think he's actually one potentially, in my opinion, long term who could be a backup to Sasha, and long term potentially Pollard and Marnie. So good to see him get some form. But look, again, quality forwards. They gave the platform to a quality backline and they capitalized. So again, easy. It makes your life a lot easier if you have forwards going forward. It's something that I think the Stormers did with over a number of years with Malherbe and Getzoff and the forwards that they had. So well done to the Sharks, and we'll see if they manage to keep that momentum going at the Shark Tank next weekend against the Stormers.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, Obviously, the Stormers and now know what to expect. So let's see if they can make plans for what is to come next weekend. And also then Lions against the Bulls. Now you also have your rematch. So let's see if you can also take revenge over them there across the Yuxkay.
I mean, look, I think the Bulls, obviously the Lions are coming off of 2 draws. The Bulls coming off the back of 2 comeback wins. I think the momentum at the moment is with the Bulls, and momentum is with the Sharks as well, playing at home. So, I mean, the Bulls are also almost playing at home. It's really not that far, so let's be real. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting weekend, and I'm predicting surprisingly, I'm going to predict the Stormers win. I think you guys have a comeback next weekend, and then I'm going to predict the Bulls win. I think we'll new defensive structures with a new attacking play. I think we're starting to get the hang of it, and I think the Bulls will have too much for the Lions. And surprisingly, I think the Stormers will. Well, I won't say surprisingly because the Stormers have actually been the form team this year, but I think that the Stormers will have a bounce back next weekend.
Surprisingly, I'm going to agree with you. I'm also going Stormers to get their revenge as well as the Bulls. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a very, very interesting weekend of rugby. So, yeah, can't wait. And yeah, I think everyone can let us know what your thoughts are about the sports weekends, games, this weekends to come. Let us know what you think.
Definitely, and let us know the list of players that I think you let us know who you'd get rid of, and obviously the Bulls and also the Stormers struggling a bit there. But yeah, let us know in the comments and like and subscribe. And thank you for joining us for another episode of the Sideline Breakdown.
Thank you, Carl. See you next time.
Thank you, Mr. Norris.